John Copen. We're back again with Phil Dushey, CEO of Global Financial Training Program. And we're going to be speaking today about equipment leasing and why it's such a large part of the alternative financing industry. Phil, how are you?
How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Tell me about equipment leasing.
Well, the first thing I want to tell you about equipment leasing, because when people hear the word leasing, they think about automobile leasing, and they equate to that. Equipment leasing, or actually commercial equipment leasing, is very, very different than automobile leasing as we know it. When you lease an automobile, you're going to lease it for a period of time, and at the end of that lease contract, you're going to return the car and get a new car, because they usually price the car higher than the market, so you're not going to purchase it. Commercial equipment leasing, you're going to generally own that equipment at the end, or you have an option to buy it at a very, very low price, much lower than the actual value of the equipment. It's more permanent than automobile leasing. Most companies want to own that equipment permanently. So that's the biggest difference. Now, also with equipment leasing, it's over a $900 billion a year industry in the United States, so it's huge. Every single type of business leases equipment. Now, when we think of equipment, most people think of bulldozers. Most people think of trucks. Most people think of heavy manufacturing equipment. But equipment could be office furniture. It could be a computer software program. It could be lighting. It could be anything. Okay, I think the oddest type of equipment I've ever leased in my entire life was golf balls to a driving range. So equipment could be just about anything a business owner would need, kind of copy machine or whatever it may be. Now, the reason equipment leasing is so big and why it's a much, much better option of a loan, for a couple of reasons. One, it's 100% financing. Generally, there's no down payments. If you went out to do a loan, generally there's going to be a down payment on equipment. It's sort of like if you bought a car, the $30,000 car, as soon as you drive out of the showroom, is worth maybe 25 or 23, and they're going to want you to put a down payment. Same thing with equipment on a loan. So we do 100% financing. We could also finance delivery, installation, warranties, just about anything that's associated with that equipment. We call those soft costs, and we could do 100% of the soft costs. Also, with equipment leasing, the payments are tax deductible, which is huge for a business. And I'm not going to get into all the different types of tax deductions that you can take. I'll leave that for the accountants, but mostly all the payments are tax deductible, which is huge, and that's what makes equipment leasing so popular. It's also very quick and very easy. Most banks in the country do not do equipment leasing as standalone. When I say it's standalone, I mean that if you want to get a $50,000 or $100,000 piece of equipment, you're just not going to finance it. They may do equipment as part of the whole loan package, but not if you want to just. We could do equipment anywhere as low as $10,000 to, $10 million or $20 million, or much more than that. It doesn't really matter. Now, there are a couple of different ways of looking at equipment leasing, and I won't get into all the different types of leasing we get into, so I don't want to overcomplicate it for here. But not only can we lease new equipment, we lease used equipment. It really doesn't matter. Probably a bigger part of the market is used equipment. And can also do something called sale and leaseback. Now, what is that? That's a new word for you. Let's say you have equipment, and you own it. You own it outright, or you owe very little on the equipment, and it has equity in the equipment. And what you don't need is new equipment. You need working capital. Well, we'll take that equipment, and we'll buy it from you. And what we'll do is then we'll lease it back to you. And nothing moves. It's strictly a paper transaction. You still have full use of all the equipment. But now you've got this equipment, and you've got a lot of working capital. And we're doing a lot of this lately in the commercial construction industry. That's an industry that's gotten killed in the last 5 or 6 years, but now it's just booming all over. Not residential, it's commercial. And they're just too much work out there right now for them, and they need working capital. Another thing we can do with equipment is as you lease some equipment and you're 2 or 3 years into your payments and you're building equity in that equipment, well, and you want to lower your payments, we can restructure the payments by stretching out the payments a few years and lowering the payments in most cases by 30 or 40%. So with equipment leasing, we have a lot of flexibility in helping the business owner grow his business. It's not necessarily even in times where the cash flow is low, we can help improve cash flow as well. So it's just a great vehicle, and every business in the country needs equipment.
Phil, I want to read you a headline from the Business and Tech section of the September 19th Wall Street Journal.
Okay.
And it says, machinery glut hits equipment makers. And it goes on to say, instead of buying new $500,000 bulldozer or a $300,000 excavator, many construction firms and other equipment users are renting or entering long-term leases for machines to expand their fleets to replace worn-out equipment. It goes on to cite Caterpillar, Volvo, Deere and Company as being at risk of this problem. And it strikes me, when I read this, the very first thing I thought of was to send you the article, but it strikes me that suddenly there is a tremendous market for leasing used equipment because the John Deeres of the world have their own financing programs. But I don't want to call them mom and pop because they're selling $300,000 pieces of equipment, but the smaller construction companies, or equipment dealers rather, have to finance those sales. And suddenly there's a tremendous, it seems from this article, that there's a tremendous demand for that. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm very familiar with maybe not that particular article, but what's happening in the industry right now. And, you know, that type of equipment really holds its value. I mean, serviced properly, it could last 20, 30 years or even longer in certain cases. And you can go take the same equipment that's new and buy it used and save maybe 30, 35, in some cases even 40%. So yeah, the new equipment markets are getting backed up, and people are going for more and more for used equipment than they ever have before, and our business is growing left and right. Now, you see John Deere and Caterpillar and companies like that have their own financing company. Those are called captive leasing companies. They won't do used equipment at all. That may change in the future, but it's not changed right now, and that's been the policy for quite a long time. So we're seeing a lot of that business, and also with the rental companies, we're doing a ton of business with them because when they rent equipment, they always offer an option to the people who are renting equipment on a longer-term basis. If they rent equipment, let's say for 6 months or longer, if they want to buy that piece of equipment, they give them a huge discount, and we're there to finance that equipment for them. So that's a big market for us as well. We see that happening, and our business in that area is growing rapidly because we can finance businesses that have, you know, not great credit as well, because that equipment holds its value quite a bit. And the resale market on that stuff is great, so we can close an eye to, you know, some spotty credit as well.
Well, at the risk of sounding like a commercial for you, which I'm not, this is an interview, but it sounds to me like if I was a younger man that's so far along in my career, I should put on a shirt and tie and start knocking on equipment dealers and take your program and make a killing.
You'd make a lot of money.
Thanks very much, Bill. I'll talk to you again.
You got it. Have a great day.